Okay, so it sounds like it's working. Like I said, speech therapist. The population I work with is specifically preschool aged kids. And my current position is with evaluating kids, usually between 2 and 3, so that to see if they qualify for our program. Anyways, I was meeting with some parents. This happened about 2 years ago. And I was meeting online over Zoom with these parents, and one of the things that we talk about is big events in a child's life that might have impacted them. And this parent was describing a traumatic situation that impacted both her and her kids. And I'm also boiling some water right now, so that might get a little bit louder. But anyways, as she was talking about this, I remember feeling kind of uncomfortable. I mean, it's always uncomfortable to hear people talk about trauma, but yeah, it was a lot. And I didn't think anything of it, but then the next day, I was lying on the couch with my daughter watching something, and then I got up and I had this horrible back pain that I just couldn't shake, and it lasted for days, and I couldn't do anything about it. And I had to leave work early and was on ibuprofen and was stretching like crazy. Like usually my body can heal itself. Usually I can, find where that knot is and massage it and take care of it. It was just not happening this time. And so after a couple days, my wife says, you just need to get a massage or something. Something has to change. So I, made an appointment for a massage and went in and told the massage therapist, I don't know what happened, but my back's been hurting me for the last couple days. And so right away, she started doing this thing called skin rolling. And I could feel it, and I knew it was skin rolling because I just saw a TikTok on it a couple days earlier. And so she started with that. She started working on my body, and I started to feel better pretty quickly. And then after a while, she says, can I do some energy work on you? And I thought, sure, why not? I mean, I'm here, I'm on the table, go nuts. So anyways, she's doing her thing for a while. And then afterwards, she's like, okay, that's it. How do you feel? And I said, I feel so much better. And she asked, do you have any idea what happened to you? And I said, no, I do not know what happened. And she said, well, I think you took on someone else's energy. And I remember thinking wait, what? Who would do this to me? And it felt very much like I was just in victim mentality just immediately. This is something that happened to me. Somebody did this to me. And anyways, she asked me, do you do anything to protect yourself? And I was like, protect myself? I'd never, the concept never really entered my mind. And then she talked about, she told me about cord cutting, how you can imagine energetic cords connecting you with another person, and then imagine your hand as a knife. Visualize that happening, or as a way to cut those energetic cords that you're feeling, or visualizing yourself in a bubble, like a bubble of light, and then praying and then seeing it come. Any number of ways to protect yourself. But I was floored. I had no idea this was even a thing. So the next couple of days, I'm kind of in a daze, just kind of grappling with what does this mean? Is when I'm talking to people, I'm like, is this person going to hurt me with their energy? What's going on? And so, anyways, I think I've just, oops, that's my microphone. Here we go. Okay, so all of a sudden I don't know what happened, but my brain just opened wide, and then all of a sudden I've got to think about all these These things I never had to think about before. But a couple months later, something similar happens to me at work. With a parent being very vulnerable, and I feel like just I'm taking that on, and then like after the meeting I'm crying and like oversharing on Facebook, and it's like a whole thing. And I described what's happening to a coworker of mine, and she says, "Well, you're an empath." And I was like, wait, what? And she said, "You're an empath." And I said, like, I was unfamiliar with the term besides having seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which, isn't an educational video on empaths, in case you were wondering. So anyways, she says this to me, and it's a game changer because all of a sudden I've got a word for what's happening with me, what's going on with me. And, which is great. I'm a speech therapist. I love language. I love words. Finally, I've got a word to describe this. And so, anyways, after that, I start, looking into, well, okay, what do I need to do, to protect my energy so that this doesn't happen again? And so I found on YouTube, or I think it's Reiki Rachel or something like that. She does this. I googled use daily empath, and this is like the first thing that comes up. It's like 12-minute meditation that kind of goes through different ways you can protect yourself, and just releasing old stuff, and it's just beautiful. It's like it's a really great way. And so for a couple weeks, I started my day out like this, just listening to this this recording, and following along with it. And I think it was probably about a month afterwards, I was able to ground myself and connect with cosmic energy, and then I could feel this like a physical sensation. It's like a buzzing in my forehead of like, oh, I'm actually connecting to something bigger. And that was really cool. And I think that was when I really got to like that bliss phase of spiritual awakening, where it's just like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. Is anybody else experiencing this? This is fantastic. So anyways, that's my life for, a couple months. It's just all really good, and I'm learning more, and I start to, I remember starting to watch videos that learn about chakras, and learn like YouTube videos about chakra frequencies, where it's like you can hear this tone that's corresponds with your root chakra, and it's very grounding. And anyways, so started doing that, and I think because I started watching those videos, I'm not sure if it's the algorithm or what have you, but pretty soon I got advertisements for Oliver Nino, the spiritual activator, I think his name is, and he has an energy course, and I was like, I need to learn more about this. So I took this energy course and learned more about energy and how to work with it, and it was really interesting, really worthwhile, and really eye-opening. And so as I'm learning more about energy and energy work, I'm I don't know what, like it's just it feels really good, but at the same time I don't know what's coming. And what's coming is, having to confront all the stuff that you don't want to confront. That's a big part of a spiritual awakening. Everybody thinks it's all sunshine and rainbows, and it's not. It's a shit ton of darkness. And learning how to navigate that non-judgmentally, which is like weird, because like you think about past versions of yourself and you think, well, I'm better than that. But the lesson that's been coming over and over again recently has been that previous version of yourself that you're trying to be better than deserves love too. And that previous version of yourself did what it had to do to survive. And so we need to be grateful for that, and we need to be grateful for these previous versions of ourselves. And so as I was saying, so I took this energy course, and it was fantastic, and I'm learning more about this stuff. And that's one aspect of what's going on in my life. But then also, my wife and I were living in a house that we'd been at for, probably about, a little less than 2 years. We moved in the June of the pandemic, June 2020. So we've been here for a few years. But we knew we needed a new boiler, so it's just like, yep, let's get it done. So we were replacing the boiler, but we didn't realize some of our pipes downstairs were already frozen. So as this boiler is being replaced, as they're doing this work on it, the pipes thaw, and there's water in our basement. And it was really crappy. It was a really not great situation to be in. It started off on one half, and water was gushing out, and then so we had to call the guy. The guy came in. The guy called the people to take care of the water, all that stuff. And then the people to take care of the water damage come in, and then there's another pipe burst on the other side of the basement. It was just horrible. And so I'm kind of just, it's just bringing up a lot of old stuff for me, I'm realizing. And I remember that the Friday kind of after it happened, I think it might have happened on a Wednesday night or something like that. I remember getting up waking up way too early and not being able to get to sleep and ruminating on this situation and previous situations, and I was learning a lot more about empaths. Christina Lopes, she's got amazing videos on YouTube, and they were very, very helpful for me. And so feel free to check her out. She's incredible. But one of the things she talked about in her videos about empaths is one of the hallmarks of an empath is usually there's a traumatic childhood. And my childhood was pretty great for the most part. But there was that thing that happened, that I don't like to talk about. And hadn't talked about for a really long time, except for, maybe in a few special circumstances with specific people. And so, anyways, I'm dwelling on all this. I'm thinking about all this stuff. I'm up in the middle of the night, and it's just all too much. And then that day I get to work, and I wrap up a few things. I tell my boss, I can't do it today. I'm just too devastated. There's a lot going on in my life, and she's completely understanding. She says, take your time, take the day, do what you need to. And I call my mom, and she asks how we're doing. She knows about the water in the basement and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's pretty crappy. I'm thinking about all this other stuff. And anyways, long story short, I tell her about the fact that I was sexually abused as a child. And she tells me that when she was a child, she was sexually abused. And it was beautiful but awful. It was brutal, if you know Glennon Doyle. It was brutal. And I'm so glad that we had that opportunity, that moment to talk about this stuff, because I think a lot of our families, stuff happens, and we say if we don't look at this stuff, it never happened. And honestly, that's been kind of, I think, where a lot of us have been, not just as individuals, but as institutions. The church doesn't want to think about the damage it's done. The education system doesn't want to think of the damage it's done. The US government doesn't want to think about the damage it's done. And it's just like these things have all, there's some good in all of them too. But if we can't confront the bad with the good's not always going to be really great, because it's always going to be tied to that thing that's not being acknowledged. And anyways, so I had this conversation with my mom, and it's coming on. It's almost been a year now since that event, or since that conversation, I should say. And in that time, I've learned more about this thing called shadow work, which means like integrating the parts of yourself that you don't want anybody to know about. You don't want even yourself to see. It feels like I've had to learn a whole new vocabulary with the spiritual awakening. But anyways, so that's how it's been for the last year, is me confronting the parts of myself that I don't want to show to other people or acknowledge are there. But these pieces of me are there. In some cases, they might be the best part of me, but I've been dumbing it down and dimming my light because I think that's going to make everybody else comfortable. And I think this is a pattern for a lot of us. But we don't need people to be comfortable. Comfortable is what perpetuates the problem. Discomfort is where growth happens. And we need to grow, both individually and then also as a society. We need to grow, and that's on all of us. And that means having uncomfortable conversations sometimes and confronting hidden truths that we wish would remain unseen. So, anyways, I don't know what this is all leading to, but over the last year, I've been going to art therapy, and I just felt like for the last year, I just felt like I'm on the cusp of something. Like something great is about to happen, and I just don't know what it is, but I want to be ready for it, and I want to embrace it, and it's just like God's got a plan for me, and I'm just ready for it. But I'm also so grateful for all the things that brought me where I am. All the things that didn't work out, all the things that I've been kicking myself about for however long. I think I feel like I'm just where I need to be right now. And if you're watching this, you're just where you need to be right now. And I hope we can learn together how to be better people, individually, collectively, and communally. And that's hard because in order to do that, we really have to look at our stuff individually. And that's very uncomfortable. And some of us have spent our whole lives running away from these parts of ourselves. But it's winter. It's January. It's time to stop running. It's time to just hunker down and just be with what's there. And if you don't know what's there, slow down, take some time, look around, and discover it. Because one of the biggest lessons I've learned over the last 2 years is my need for external validation has kept me playing small. It's kept me playing safe. It's kept me from being who I'm supposed to be. And I don't want that anymore. Not just for myself, I don't want that for the people whose lives I could be impacting in a positive way. And maybe that's you. Maybe I could be helping you. And hopefully you're getting something from this story. But if you don't get anything from it, I just want you to know that you're not alone. And know that the spiritual awakening journey can be very, very isolating. But in that isolation, you find yourself. And that is so much more valuable than any external validation that the world could give you. So I'm a speech therapist. I'm also a songwriter. I don't share, historically, I haven't shared a lot of my songs except for maybe in at events that I'm invited to. And it felt like part of that is this idea of, well, these stories, my songs, because a lot of what I do is collaborative custom songwriting, it doesn't feel like it's my story. It feels like it's someone else's. And for a long time, I felt like the reason I can't share some of these stories, some of these songs, is because they're not my own. And I'm starting to realize that feeling isn't inaccurate. It's actually honing in on a truth that I didn't realize. And that truth is that when I'm writing, I'm not just taking words and phrases that are rattling around in my head and putting them on a piece of paper. I mean, usually I use my phone and I'm typing it or whatever, but that's not the point. The point is, if you ever watched Elizabeth Gilbert's TED Talk on creativity, it's just beautiful. But this idea of creativity isn't something that just happens within us. It is sort of like there are these ideas that hover around that are like clouds that are just like waiting to attach to somebody so that they can bring it into the world. And if we look at things through that perspective, we realize that what we have and what we make isn't about us. It's just about something so much bigger. And the idea of holding back because I'm afraid of what somebody else might think is holding all of us back. Because if we care so much about what other people think about us that we can't be ourselves, that's another person who can't be themselves. We've got to be that example. That's why having kids has been so impactful for me, is because I know how I was raised and I know how I want my children to be raised, and there's some continuity, there's some things that are the same, there's some things that are not. But in order for them to be their authentic selves, they're great. My kids are amazing. But in order for them to be their authentic self, I need to be my authentic self. And you need to be your authentic self. I know that's hard. It's not easy. It's scary. But there's something inside of you that nobody else has got. And we're so busy being distracted, looking at our phones, looking at other social media accounts, other people, that we're missing what we've got inside. We're not the only one missing it. The world's missing it. The world needs it. As soon as you find it, you'll know. You already do know. But it's tough to tap into that knowing because there's so much noise in the world. So I'm going to wrap it up here for now. There's so much more that I have to tell you. But in the meantime, thanks again for listening. Hope you have a wonderful day. We'll be in touch.